Of course, everybody remembers or knows the 1979 Daytona 500 was the first 500 to be broadcast live from start to finish on CBS. And that race had so many memorable moments. But of course, we all remember the fight between Bobby, Donnie, and Cale. And we remember that because of Donnie and Cale crashing, Richard Petty was able to win the race. So and we did a documentary a few years ago called The Perfect Storm. And really all of the things in the NASCAR universe came together that day. You've heard stories of snowstorms up and down the East Coast that forced people to be inside all day. At this period of time, there were only 3 networks. You had ABC, CBS, and NBC. So when you have CBS, you've got a third of the audience that's maybe watching TV. So that race changed, the sport forever. And one interesting thing about it that I'll say is, since 1979, we've seen the highlights of that fight every year. Every year when we go to Daytona, you see that fight. And people don't realize that fight was on the screen for 23 seconds. That fight, we're talking about Petty winning, and Ken Squire goes, and there's a fight, and they go, and you see Cale and Donnie and Bobby, and you see the fight, and of course Ken says, and there's a fight. And I mean, that's one of the most famous calls an announcer has ever made. But 23 seconds later, they're throwing it to Victory Lane to interview Richard Petty, and they never go back to the fight. They never, but that moment that changed NASCAR forever just happened in a very short window of time. So I think that's, that's just part of how things can change very rapidly.